All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm just here to introduce Don Song, who is a professor of computer science at UC Berkeley right here in town. I'm also the co-director of the Berkeley Center for Responsible and Decentralized Intelligence. Don's research interests lie at the intersection of AI and deep learning, blockchain, and security, and she's the recipient of numerous awards, including the Harvard Fellowship, the Guggenheim Fellowship, tons of Best Paper awards from top conferences like NERSC, so we're very lucky to be joined by Don today. Just a quick reminder, in case you weren't there before, if you go on the Discord and look at the channel that starts with the big red question mark emoji, there's a thread for this session. Throughout the talk, I encourage you to put questions that you have there and also just look through and upvote other questions from other people that you are interested in. And then if we have time for Q&A at the end, I'll try to ask the most upvoted questions first. All right, please join me.
Great. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Yes, my name is Don Song, professor at UC Berkeley and director of a campus-wide center called the Center for Responsible Decentralized Intelligence, which focuses at the intersection of responsible innovation, decentralization, open source, and AI. And so today I'll talk about towards building a safe and responsible AI and a path for science and evidence-based AI policy. So we are all really excited about the exponential growth in large language models and frontier AI. And we've seen rapid advancement of this AI model performance, and they are empowering rich capabilities. So on one hand, we're really excited about all the great things AI can do. On the other hand, of course, we need to be very aware of the broad spectrum of potential AI risks. And this goal is a very broad spectrum, including many different categories, including misuse, malfunction, systemic risk, and so on. And all these are listed in a recent report, international scientific report on the safety of advanced AI that I'm part of, that's being led by your bench. And also I want to stress that as we deploy AI, it's particularly important to consider AI in the presence of attackers. One, history has shown that attackers always follow the footsteps of new technology development, or sometimes even lead it. And also the stake is even higher with AI this time. As AI controls more and more systems, attackers will have higher and higher incentives to compromise these systems. And as AI becomes more and more capable, the consequence of misuse by attackers will also become more and more severe. And hence, as we consider building safe and responsible AI, it's really important that we consider this in the adversary setting. So it's really important from what we just discussed to mitigate risks while fostering innovation in deploying and developing AI. And because of the importance, there has been a lot of efforts recently in AI bills and various policy efforts. And in particular this year, we have seen a sudden proliferation of AI bills. Currently, there are about 120 AI bills in progress at federal level. And at the state level, at least 45 states have introduced AI bills, around 600 of them. And at the same time, unfortunately, we are seeing huge fragmentation in AI community approaches to AI policy. AI research and policy community lacks consensus on the evidence base relevant for effective policy making, including, for example, what risks should be prioritized, if or when they will materialize, and who should be responsible for addressing these risks. And as what we have seen from the heated debates in the process of SB 1047, this huge fragmentation in AI community. So building a safe AI future needs a sustained social-technical approach. Technical solution alone is necessary but insufficient. And however, ad hoc regulation leads to many problems, including suboptimal solutions, potentially negative consequences, and even worse, lost opportunity to avert disastrous outcomes and fragmented community. So what is a better path to a safe AI future? So this is what motivated us recently to launch a proposal on the path for science and evidence-based AI policy, and as jointly with many leading AI researchers. And for more information, you can, for the full proposal, you can go to this website, understandingAI.org. So the key is that we believe that AI policy should be informed by scientific understanding of AI risks and how to successfully mitigate them. And also we agree that the current scientific understanding is quite limited. So so the proposal essentially will argue that AI policy should be science and evidence-based and we should prioritize advancing scientific understanding of AI risks and how to successfully identify and mitigate them. So in order to advance scientific understanding and science and evidence-based AI policy, in the proposal we lay out the 5 priorities. We need to better understand AI risks, increase transparency. So there's 5 priorities. And I will go into each one just in a little bit detail, one by one. So the first is, these priorities are not ranked by the priority level, so it's just a list. So the first one I will talk about is we need to better understand AI risks. And for this priority, we have we focus on 2 main aspects. The first one is comprehensiveness. We need to develop comprehensive understanding of AI risks because this is the necessary foundation for effective policy. And again, as I mentioned already, there's a very broad spectrum of different types of AI risks, and we need to have comprehensive understanding of all these different types of risks. So the other aspect is we recommend a particular type of risk analysis, which is through marginal risk framework. So I'll spend a little bit of time to talk about this. So the marginal risk framework essentially is about analyzing the risks, comparing with or without the frontier AI. And this is motivated, also inspired by some of our earlier work joined with other researchers. At our paper at SML, we use this marginal risk framework to analyze the question for whether to develop open or closed foundation models. And so this risk assessment framework essentially would lay out a process. First, what specific risks are we analyzing and from whom, and what is the existing risk without the foundation models, what are the existing defense without the foundation models, and what is the marginal risk, and hence what is marginal risk of foundation models, and how difficult is it to defend against this marginal risk, and what are the uncertainties and assumptions in this analysis. So we looked at previous work on analyzing AI risks, and we noticed that essentially most of the previous work, when they analyzed AI risks, they did not use this marginal risk assessment framework. And hence their analysis actually doesn't really answer the question, what is the unique risk that's brought by AI? And hence this motivates that it's really important as we analyze these AI risks to use this marginal risk assessment framework. And also here, this is one of our ongoing work that I wanted to describe. In particular in the area of cybersecurity. So the key question is what is the impact of frontier AI in the landscape of cybersecurity? So in this case, essentially we want to compare the landscape of cybersecurity with or without frontier AI. In particular, here's a traditional cybersecurity. We have attackers and defenders dealing with the setting of traditional software systems, which are symbolic programs written by humans. And then when we add frontier AI, all of these elements change. So the attacker will be able to use frontier AI so as defenders, and also even the overall system changes as well. So now we have, instead of traditional software system, we have hybrid software system, which contains both symbolic programs written by humans and AI, and also non-symbolic programs. This AI model, essentially AI models such as neural networks. So the question is, how will frontier AI help both attackers and defenders, and how this will change essentially the game between attackers and defenders using this marginal risk analysis. And also we have an upcoming survey that we are surveying actually the entire industry field. So please stay tuned. We hope you can join the survey as well. So in order to answer this question, essentially, we need to go through the marginal risk assessment framework process, as I mentioned earlier. In particular, we need to know the enemy, the attacker side, understand the impact of misuse AI in attacks, and to know the defense and impact of AI in defenses. And in particular, for cybersecurity, it has a unique aspect, which is a symmetry between attacks and defense. And also, I'll briefly talk about some of the lessons and predictions that I have here. So when we look at how AI can change impact attack side, there is actually 2 main camps. One is how attackers can attack machines, and the other one is how to attack humans. So my group actually we were among the earliest actually to use deep learning in cybersecurity space. So for example, earlier we did the first work using graph neural networks to identify for vulnerability detection and using like similarity analysis in program binaries. And also recent work has shown that the large language model agents can already autonomously perform certain types of attacks, such as hacking websites and so on. And some of these agents can also now have shown to exploit very simple but one-day vulnerabilities. So these are just certain a few points in research. Overall, when we look at the cyber attack, essentially there is a whole it's called a kill chain, multi-stage for attack to be carried out from beginning to end. And hence, to really understand how AI may impact the attacker side, we need to actually be able to analyze every stage of this attack kill chain. So in our recent work, this is still work in progress. We actually have analyzed essentially the AI capabilities and impact levels for different attack stages. So here we essentially include this in the capability impact level in these different levels. One is we don't see any impact. The next level is we'll see some impact as demonstrated in research papers. The next level is we'll see some demonstration in the real world. And then the last stage, the last level, the highest level is large-scale deployments in the real world that we have seen. It's really large scale in the real world. So the good news is that what you can see here is so for many of for a lot of part of the attack side, it actually is still not impacted yet. But however, some other aspects we actually have seen large scale even in the real world. So that's on the attacking machine side. Another aspect is on attacking user side. So actually, especially in cybersecurity, oftentimes it's that the humans are the weakest link of these systems. There's estimates that over 80% of penetrations and hacks actually start with the social engineering attack. And so essentially the most common cyber threat facing business and individuals today is phishing and through humans. And today, unfortunately, we have seen that really GenAI has made a huge impact in social engineering attack increase in the real world. I won't have time to go into the details, but we have seen really, as many people have experienced also, including like deepfakes and so on. So again, here we can look at in terms of attacking humans. There are different attack methods and different attack goals. So in here, in particular, we have seen that the GenAI's impact on attacking humans is really vast. Like so, basically, all these there's large scale attacks deployments in the real world, and it's a real issue. So that's the attack side, and then on the defense side, also there are different there's defenses throughout the different stages for attacks. To defend against those attack stages, and then there are different methods. Again, similarly for the defense, we also look at the AI capability impact levels in defenses. And here, one thing also we have seen is that unfortunately, on the AI capability impact level in defenses, for many of them, we actually AI capabilities are still not good enough for improving these defenses. Another thing I wanted to mention is that, of course, our goal is that we want to continue to improve the AI capabilities to further advance the defense capabilities. But however, one thing, given the dual-use nature of AI, unfortunately here we list out what we call equivalence classes. So on one hand, as we develop technologies to advance AI for advancing defense capabilities, exactly the same advancements in AI that's used to advance defense capabilities, it can then help the attack side, help attackers. So here, just as examples, for different defense stages, we list out these equivalence classes that when as you improve defenses, the same AI capability enhancement can be used to improve attack size. So this really makes a tricky question. Then, given that AI can help both attackers and defenders, then what is who is going to win? Is AI going to help attackers more or defenders more? So there is a unique feature in cybersecurity is the asymmetry between defense and offense. So we're going to go through that. So one, when I talk to a lot of people, they oftentimes make the arguments that we don't need to worry. So if defenders can use AI to discover and fix the bugs before attackers, if AI capability is really good, so then what's the problem? Why do we? No, we don't need to worry. So is this true or false? So first, like, what do people think?
False.
Okay. So okay, so we can walk through some of these arguments. So yes, it's unfortunately this is not true, especially due to the asymmetry between defense and offense. So on the offense side, it only needs to find one successful attack that works. But however, for defenders, it needs to fix all bugs and prevent all attacks to succeed. And also, the cost for defense is much higher than attacks. And deploying defense, even when there is defense, it actually can take a very long time because so first you need to develop the fix, and then you need to do a lot of testing before deployments, and then you need to do the deployments globally. For example, for common for vulnerabilities in widely deployed software. For example, but unfortunately, a lot of legacy systems, even today, they are still not patched for patches that have existed for a very long time. And also, attackers can actually learn about the vulnerabilities and generate exploits using this private information on patches. Some of our earlier work has demonstrated this as well. And the attacker can use this information to exploit systems even before they can be patched. So this all illustrates a huge issue given this asymmetry between defense and offense. And hence, the consequence of misuse AI in attacks can be really vast. So currently, we have already seen how to misuse AI in attacks, in particular, as I mentioned, for attacking humans. And also, in the future, misuse the frontier AI can essentially help with every attack stage. This can apply to every attack domain in the attack landscape, increase attacker capability, devise new attacks, and reduce resource costs needed for attacks, and automate large-scale attacks, and help make attacks more elusive and stealthier. So with this, I wanted to share a little bit of my personal predictions and the lessons. So my prediction is that AI will help attackers more at the beginning. Current systems are highly vulnerable and ill-prepared for AI-assisted attacks. We have a lot of organizations, most of the organization systems today only spend efforts and resources after seeing attacks and damages. And at the cost of attacks going down, we expect to see unprecedented increase in attacks. So this is already, for example, from lessons learned from spam, from script kicking, and we are already seeing increase in attacks. So essentially what I would say is that the world today, as the world was not prepared for a pandemic such as COVID, despite early warning, and I would say attacks assisted with AI actually can be much worse. So here is a lesson learned from some of my own personal research and experience in the field of medical device security. So back in 2011, actually my group, we performed the first medical device security analysis in the public literature, and we discovered exploitable vulnerabilities in these medical devices like defibrillator and so on, and that can even be spread like a worm and so on. And back then, actually, if you look at the FDA guidance for approval process, they actually do not even mention security at all. And after our work and other researchers' work in the field, only later, like 5 years later, FDA changed their approval process and added recommendation for security, for checking security. So and hence this is a good lesson for the AI field to learn as well. Security space is very complex, and frontier AI will have huge impact in cybersecurity. There will be significant increase in there's already significant increase in attacks due to GenAI, and in the near term, AI will help attackers more than defenders, and of course there can be even extreme risks with super attacks. And hence it's important to learn from past lessons and act now. So we need to build and deploy plans to improve security posture, to get ready and build AI solutions and digital assistants to protect the humans against bots, and use AI to build secure systems with global guarantees. So this is I'll talk a little bit more later in my talk. And also, so in our current work in progress, we are also developing a call to action for the whole community for improving and leveraging frontier AI to strengthen cybersecurity. Given the interest of time, I won't have time to go into that. So to summarize, so this is aspect for the priority one is that we need to better understand AI risks, and in particular using marginal risk analysis. And what I want to emphasize here is that this marginal risk analysis, like what I just showed, doing marginal risk analysis in the area of cybersecurity, is that the result actually changes depending on many factors, such as model capabilities. So essentially, the figures that I showed with the different colors, as AI capability improves, those colors will change over time. And hence, so for example, current marginal risk for social engineer with AI is high, but the marginal risk for cyber exploits with AI is low. But what they're saying that we could actually continuously do this marginal risk analysis to better understand these AI risks. So that's priority number one. And now I'll briefly talk about priority number two. So priority number one is more focused on the science aspect. So this whole proposal is a mix of science and policy recommendations. So priority number two is more on the policy side. So priority number two is increased transparency on AI design and development. So transparency is important for risk analysis and policy development. So the good news is that model developers currently already volunteer on transparency reporting. And also comparing this year to last year, their transparency index score has improved, so their transparency reporting has been improving. However, we think that's not sufficient. So here's an example in the domain of social media platforms. So in the last decade, social media companies such as Google did self-reported transparency reports. But however, last year, Europe passed this Digital Service Act that requires and standardized the transparency reports from the social media companies. And since then, essentially, the transparency report is standardized and it's a huge improvement. So what we argue here is similar to ESA for social media and financial reporting to SEC. Transparency regulation in AI can be very helpful. It can help with standardization for so that companies can report the same metrics in the same format, and there are many different other aspects. So, and hence, in this proposal, we argue for priority for transparency policy regulation, and but there are many questions for transparency requirements. What criteria should be used for in policy making to determine the covered entities and covered models, and what information should be shared, and to whom, and what is the right process. So that's priority number two. So now I'll talk about priority number three, is to develop early warning detection mechanisms and for event reporting. So in this priority, we have two different aspects. The first, the two parts, and also this combination of science and policy. So the first part focuses on science, is that we need in-lab testing. So we need to test AI models with adversarial scenarios to identify vulnerabilities and unintended behaviors. This can help assess dangerous capabilities and marginal risks. So just to use some of our own work, recent work as examples. So one of our work called Decoding Trust is the first comprehensive evaluation framework for trustworthiness of large language models, where we evaluate many different perspectives related to trustworthiness and safety of large language models. And this work actually has won the Best Paper Award at NeurIPS last year, and also won the Best Scientific Cybersecurity Paper Awards of the year this year as well. And with this work, we have developed essentially different methodologies and algorithms to evaluate the trustworthiness of large language models in both benign environments and many different types of adversarial environments. And in our evaluation, we showed that all leading models today, they can all be easily attacked, and they have many different types of risks in all these different aspects. And also, we have extended our work in other domains, including multi-model, and also our recent work on risk assessment for code agents that will appear as new rigs this year as well. So these are just some examples of this in-lab testing, evaluation, safety evaluation. That's really important. But however, actually, there are many open questions. How to effectively test and evaluate unknown behaviors and dangerous capabilities. And also, current evaluation are mostly just done on models. You essentially run models over these benchmarks. But however, my view is that this is hugely insufficient, especially as we develop more agentic capabilities. These agentic flows can significantly enhance the capabilities of the overall AI system, and this can pose a much greater challenge for testing and evaluation. So testing and evaluation of the models alone is insufficient for this safety testing. And also we need to develop better science for evaluation. So currently, even though there has been a lot of advancements in evaluation, and also my group has done a lot of work over the years in evaluation, including like the MMO and dataset and so on. But overall, as a whole community, we still don't actually have very good, rigorous understanding and science for evaluation. So that's a priority that we propose as well. So now let me talk about the part 2 of this priority 3. So part 1 is in-lab testing. Part 2 focuses on post-development monitoring. So this also is, I can give an example in the space of cybersecurity as an example. So in cybersecurity, recently there is a law being passed, the Cyber Incident Reporting for Critical Infrastructure Act, which essentially requires these cyber security incidents being reported to central entities like CISA. And so similar to this, we recommend that developing regulation and systems for adverse events, event reporting for AI is also very important. And but there are many open questions: how to effectively and continuously monitor and detect adverse events, to whom to report, and how to design a responsible reporting protocol. So that's priority 3. So now let me talk about priority 4, is to develop mitigation and defense mechanism for identified AI risks. This priority also has 2 parts. So the first part is that we need to develop new approaches for building safe AI with the potential for greater safety assurance beyond current alignment approaches. So as I already mentioned earlier, essentially the current AI alignment approaches actually is hugely insufficient. So again, so my group was among the earliest to explore adversarial attacks in deep learning systems. And we had the rare honor and pleasure that some of the artifacts of our earlier work has become the part of the permanent collection at the Science Museum of London. So as a scientist, as a computer scientist, that's very rare. So essentially, our work and others' work have shown that all these deep learning systems, they are all vulnerable to these different kinds of adversarial examples, adversarial attacks, and so on. And also adversarial attacks, they can happen at all stages of the learning pipeline. It can happen at inference time through adversarial examples such as through prompt engineering and through BRIC. It can also happen at the training stage including with pre-training and fine-tuning through data poisoning attacks. And also our recent work here has shown this can also even happen at the inference time without training with, for example, poisoning attacks in rat as well. And that will appear at NeurIPS this year. So what I want to emphasize here is that, so when we started working in adversarial deep learning, essentially we were here. So there are like very few papers a year at that time in this area. But however, the space has grown exponentially. So now every year we see thousands and thousands of papers published on this topic. However, unfortunately, most of these works are actually on attack side, as we have seen tremendous progress on the attack side. But however, on the other hand, we see a huge gap, whereas on the defense side, we have been making extremely slow progress in the whole community. And today, we don't have effective general adversarial defenses. So this poses a huge challenge for AI safety. So again, current AI alignment mechanisms, as I have mentioned, are easily evaded by adversarial attacks. However, any effective AI safety mechanisms need to be resilient against adversarial attacks. And hence, given what I have shown, this poses a huge challenge for AI safety. Essentially, in order to achieve AI safety, we need to address adversarial robustness, which we currently don't have solutions for. So, how can we make progress to develop better defense capabilities? So here again, I'm just using some of our own recent work as some examples of potential different approaches, alternative approaches. So one is in collaboration with many other collaborators and my former students and so on. So this work recently we did on representation engineering, a top-down approach to interpretability. So the idea here is that we actually observe during inference time the activations of the neurons in the neural networks, and in particular here we design and provide this contrastive stimulus and tasks, and we provide this contrastive stimulus to the model. And so essentially, the contrastive means you have similar prompt, but in one case, it's, for example, it's dishonest, in another, in the opposite one, it's honest. So then we observe the activation of the neural networks under this contrastive stimulus, and then we build models based on these observed activations. And then what we have learned is that by building these models, we can actually identify, for example, certain directions at different layers in the neural networks that corresponds to different types of model behaviors, such as whether the model is honest or dishonest, whether it's hallucinating or not, and so on. So we call this representation reading. And furthermore, as a step further, more importantly, we develop, using this model, we develop a method called representation control. So instead of during runtime, just monitor the model activation and learning about the model behaviors, we can now actually modify the activation of the neurons, of the neural networks, and then cause the model behavior to change. So in particular, for example, we can change the neural activation along certain directions, and then we can cause the model to behave more honest or more dishonest. And using this, so I do strongly believe that this can be a very powerful arsenal in our essentially for us for AI safety. So for artificial neural networks, the advantage is that it's fully under our control. We can unlike the human brain, we can actually completely observe the neurons and the artificial neural networks, and we can modify them on the fly. So this can provide a very powerful capability for us to monitor and control model behaviors. So here, oops, it's very interesting. Okay, so here I want to use a concrete study to illustrate the power of this capability. So one of our recent work that just got published at the EMNLP, actually just a week ago, where we studied the political leanings of large language models. And in particular here, we actually studied the political leaning of large language models in the context of election. And here, we actually studied all the 12 models under the setting whether the model prefers Trump versus Biden. As the time of work, Biden hasn't jumped out of the race yet. So for example, we asked the model whether they would vote Trump versus Biden. And we can answer the first. So surprising to everyone here, essentially for most of the models, like 100%, like they vote for Biden. And also we studied the models essentially we evaluate the model's response to candidates' policies, Trump versus Biden's candidate policies, and in general on these models, their response is much more positive for Biden's policy over Trump's policy. And we did a user study with close to 1,000 users. That's actually these users have been recruited, like half Republican, half Democrats. And we have users interact with the LM through a 5-turn conversation. And the LM in this case is not instructed to explicitly persuade the users, only just to have an interaction, a conversation with the user to help user answer users' questions about his policy and so on. And our work showed that after even just 5-turn conversation, actually there's statistically significance in terms of the shift for voters towards Biden. And so we didn't do a longitudinal study, so these are only just showing the shift at the end of the session. But all these illustrates the huge open question of these large language models political leaning. So then what we did as a preliminary study, we asked the question, what can we do to try to mitigate these political leaning for these models? And in particular here, we used the representation control methods that I mentioned earlier. So here are some example outputs from the models. You can see before and after the representation control. So for example, here this is the Llama 3.1 AP model, and the user's question, and this is without representation control, and it's this is the answer. And then once we have here for the representation control, we are trying to make the model to behave neutral. So that in this case, you can see that then the model's response is now actually much more neutral. And then similarly, this is for ATB, 70B, a model also with the representation control. We show that the response under this representation control is much more neutral. So, but of course, this is just the beginning. Actually, there's a much broader question as advancement of AI and as humans interact more with these AI, there can be huge influence of these AIs on our democracy. And there are many open questions for challenges and opportunities. So I won't have time to go into the details. So here at this website, we have essentially we have a new proposal, lay out the detailed essential research roadmap, and you can see more details here. So essentially, we lay out that there are many areas of open questions that we need to study. We need more comprehensive model evaluation and analysis, we need to deepen our understanding of large language models' influence on users and their impact on democracy. We need to explore better policy and value decisions for AI development. And we need to explore and develop various techniques, including the kind of safety methods that I mentioned, representation control, to mitigate or alter LLMs politically. And here I just wanted to briefly mention, something that's why I'm showing this here. So our paper actually is published. Actually, it has been tweeted and retweeted, including like Mark Andreessen, where people essentially only just tweet out the table in the paper, which this one, for example, has close to 350,000 views. And we're actually trying to guide the community into more of the scientific understanding, the direction, instead of people are just saying, we don't want I think this area is can be very sensitive, and we want the community to really focus on the scientific understanding aspect. So, but we only have, so this is my response to Mark's tweet, but you can see the huge difference. I think the community overall has a lot of work needed to help the overall community to go more in the direction of advancing scientific understanding. So, so that's on the methods of representation engineering. And here I just want to briefly mention that as another approach going forward, we also want to see whether we can provide better guarantees for AI safety. So here, this is a new initiative, quantitative AI safety, that we recently launched. It's still at a very early stage with some of the under AI researchers. So that's priority 3. So now I'll briefly talk about priority 4. That's a part 1 for priority 4. Device mitigations. So essentially it's to develop safer AI. So now I also want to talk about part 2, which is instead of just improving or building safer AI, the part 2 is about we as a society, we actually need to improve, need to develop defense approaches our immune systems in society to reduce the potential negative impacts from misuse of AI technology. So again, here using an example in cybersecurity. So in particular here, on the defense side, we really need to improve the security posture and the defenses of computer system against security risks caused by AI misuse. So essentially, we need to make all the computer systems in society, in our community, to essentially be more secure. And so here I can give an example. So currently there's estimates that the mean time to deploy remediation such as patches in hospitals today, even after the patch becomes available, is about 500, close to 500 days. So this is an example to see the kind of state where our current cybersecurity systems are. And so the good news is that there has been recognition of this. So currently there has been grant programs called solutions to reduce exactly this time. But however, this is just one example. So there are many. So today, as I mentioned earlier, our society overall do not have are in a really dire state in terms of security posture and so on. Most organizations don't have enough budgets for better security posture and defenses, and so on. And hence, part 2 is about we need to develop defensive approaches and immune systems for society to improve the overall defense ability of society. So in this case, again, using some of our recent work as some examples. So the goal here is that we want to, also as I mentioned earlier, AI, unfortunately in the near term, will help attackers more. So overall, for attackers, for AI to for defenders to win in the long term, we need to have AI to help defenders much more effectively. And so overall, in terms of building better defenses, in the cybersecurity field, also including my own work in the last more than 2 decades, has gone through essentially a paradigm shift. So in the beginning, is what we call reactive defense. This includes for detecting malware, detecting, for example, worms, viruses, and so on, and then develop detection and filtering and various methods. So unfortunately, from this, again, we don't have time to go into the details, but this type of defense with AI, actually, unfortunately, AI can help attackers much more than defenders. By the time the defenders detect these new attacks, it may already be too late. And also AI can help attackers to be much more stealthy and make the attacks difficult to be detected. And then the next paradigm is what we call proactive defense through bug finding. So basically, it's the idea that I mentioned earlier is that AI can help defenders to find bugs. It can help both attackers and defenders to find bugs. The idea is hopefully AI can help defenders to find vulnerabilities and patch them before attackers can find them. But however, as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, with this paradigm, again, attackers is much more likely to win over defenders for the various reasons that I mentioned earlier. And then the third paradigm is what we call proactive defense secure by construction. And this is what we hope that can actually really help change this dynamic to help AI to help defenders much more than attackers. So what is secure by design? Also by design. So the idea here is that we want to architect and build properly secure programs and systems. And this is in contrast to the bug finding and attack detection reactive defenses that I mentioned earlier. So in particular, in this case, this is to build formally like a properly secure programs and systems through formal verification. So with formal verification, essentially for various security and safety properties, we can formally specify these properties, and using formal verification, we can then prove that a given system at the different levels is properly secure, satisfies these certain properties. And this can be done at design level, implementation level, against different levels. And I would say that actually now we have entered the era of formally verified systems, given the efforts done by the various formal verification community. So we've had actually many different types of systems, including microkernels, compilers, and file systems and so on, that have been formally verified. However, a challenge for this approach is that it's hugely labor intensive to do this, to prove these systems. And oftentimes, for each system, it takes tens of proof engineering years to actually do the proofs, because it's a lot of proofs need to be done manually. So how can we improve this? So my group was among the first to use Ethereum proving, to use deep learning to help automate Ethereum proving. So this paper back in 5 years ago, actually together back then with Ilya, who was still at OpenAI, and we have shown that with deep learning, we can help improve and automate certain parts of Ethereum proving. However, back then, still the technology was not that good, and also we didn't have very big models and very big and a lot of compute. So now, with the recent advancements, we do. So I believe that we are hitting an inflection point. So now we are further extending our earlier work, and in collaboration with other researchers in the field, we are developing new methods for formal mathematical reasoning. And we have a recent paper that's coming out. And again, for people who are interested, we would love to get the comments and feedback. So this recent paper is essentially laid out a roadmap for formal mathematical reasoning using AI, because the new frontier in AI. And this is in contrast to the informal using AI for informal math. So far what we have seen largely is this type of math LM, where essentially LMs are trained using just informal math, like math problems and so on in natural language description and so on. And then they through pre-training, fine-tuning, and also you can train them to do some simple tool use and so on. And they already have shown greater progress, of course, on various benchmark data sets, and including some Olympic data set and so on. But however, we believe that in order to really do proper math, do capable math reasoning, this approach is insufficient. And what we propose is actually using AI for formal math, where essentially we use AI to, for example, automate theorem proving. And there's a whole process. We can do auto-formalization, taking formal math to formal math, and then using AI to automate theorem proving and to develop much stronger capabilities for using AI for math. So then, and also using this capability, in particular, what I'm personally excited about is then instead of training AI agents to play Go, we can instead train AI agents to prove theorems and to verify programs. So this way, we can enable automatic theorem proving for program verification, and also in conjunction with program synthesis. We hope with this approach, this can enable properly secure code to generate properly secure code with proofs. And so with this approach, we hope that this is how AI actually can really change this dynamics between attackers and defenders. Using this approach, we can use AI to help build properly secure systems to enable us to generate code and proofs at the same time, to enable properly secure systems that are resilient against certain classes of attacks. And of course, there are many open challenges. Given the interest of time, I do need to, so we can discuss this more separately. So that's priority 4. And the last priority is priority 5, is to build trust and reduce fragmentation in AI community. So AI community currently is heavily fragmented on approaches to risks and policy. And we strongly believe that an evidence-based approach to AI policy can help reduce fragmentation towards finding the best solutions for faster innovation while mitigating risks. And we hope to have collaborative research initiatives to bring together diverse perspectives. And also international collaboration is also very important. And me personally, I have been part of this international dialogue on AI safety, where with leading researchers, including like Yoshua Bengio and others internationally, we have been going to visiting different countries, talking with governments at these different countries to help raise awareness of AI safety and encourage international cooperation. So to summarize, for our proposal on a path for science and evidence-based AI policy, we lay out the 5 priorities. And this proposal is a combination of science and policy recommendations. And also at the end, we have a call to action where we we call for the community to come together to build a forward-looking design for a blueprint of future AI policy. And in particular, here we propose to have the AI policy for what we call conditional response, where it maps different conditions that may arise in the practice, such as specific model capabilities and specific types of harms, to candidate policy responses. So it's like an if-then policy. So the advantage of building a blueprint of future AI policy with these types of conditional response is that we hope that it can help sidestep disagreements on when capabilities and risks may reach certain levels and help do consensus building and open dialogue in a low-stake environment. And we have a process with multi-stakeholder committee with diverse positions and disciplines and institutions. And we lay out 4 different milestones for this call to action to build a taxonomy on risk factors and to perform research on marginal risk of AI for each of the risk factors and the taxonomy on policy interventions to ensure that we cover all attractive solutions, and in the end to build a blueprint that recommends changing the policy responses to different societal conditions. And so that's the proposal, and then we have many next steps where we plan to organize different multi-stakeholder meetings on different topics based on the priorities that we recommended in the proposal, including on the policy side, transparency, adverse event reporting, and on the science side, the science of evaluation and mitigation and so on. So overall, so far we have the proposal has been launched within just in the last week, 2 months. So we have seen really positive feedback where we have gotten volunteer contributors from about 200 institutions who have volunteered to contribute to these efforts, and also so with that's right. The path for science and evidence-based AI policy. And in the end, I just wanted to briefly mention that also this semester I'm teaching a MOOC, massive open online course on large language model agents, where we have close to 14,000 enrolled now, and also we have a ongoing hackathon with over 2,000 developers enrolled, and it goes until mid-December. And we have a safety track, and thanks to the support of Ximin Sciences and many actually research projects, also very well suited for this hackathon for actually the different tracks, especially for the safety track. So we highly encourage people to help spread the word, and also you can join the hackathon. You can just to learn more information, you can go to the website. With that, thanks.